Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of Drank and Champagne. I am Drank. I am joined as always by Mr. Andrew Champagne. Andrew, how are you doing, my friend?
I feel like I'm saying this every week at the start of our show, but it's been a week this week. Those of you who listened and or watched last week's episode of Drink and Champagne know that we lost Jeff Siegel. His service was on Monday down in Los Angeles. I drove down on Sunday. It was about a 5-hour drive down to Simi Valley, just outside of Los Angeles. Special thanks to our friends Danny and Laura for putting me up and allowing me to crash in their guest room on Sunday night. Wonderful, wonderful people. Love those people tremendously. Monday's service was... there's no other way to describe it except a little bit strange. It's a gathering of people whose company I very much enjoy, but that I only see at the worst possible times now. Living up here in Northern California, not working in the horse racing industry on a full-time basis. Jeff would have very much enjoyed it. He'd have very much approved. Zoe Cadman was there, and she told the story about taking Jeff to a barber shop, making sure that he tipped the barber. It was a $15 haircut. So a half hour later, Zoe picks Jeff up and Zoe said, "You tipped the guy, right?" And Jeff goes, "Yeah, was 50 enough?" It gets better because after Zoe's speech, the rabbi conducting the service walks up and says, "That was beautiful, Zoe. Thank you very much. And by the way, just in case anyone out there is thinking about tipping your rabbi, make sure you follow the Siegel standard." Yeah, it was... everybody laughed, but it was a very strange and different thing. At a minimum, he's got a hell of a view with where he's buried. The lunch that was put on after was a gathering of a lot of people that I respect and very much like. And then it was a 6.5-hour drive back because, Josh, out here in California, nobody really knows how to drive in the rain. People wind up taking one of two options. They either act as though the weather is not a factor and they go 80, or they act as though the world is ending and they go 20. I grew up in upstate New York. I know how to drive in rainy or snowy or icy conditions, what have you. And so in this 65 mile an hour zone, I'm going 50, 55 miles an hour in the middle lane, and both lanes are judging me like I'm a moron. It's a very strange last hour of a very long 6.5-hour drive that should have taken 5. But very satisfied that I went. As I mentioned last week and as I mentioned on my Substack, Jeff did a lot for me. And horse racing is a much lesser place now that he's no longer around and involved. To everybody that went, shout out, kudos, whole bunch of good people that were there to say goodbye to one of the best to ever do it. As far as other stuff goes, just keeping myself busy with a lot of other things, a lot of vet appointments with Alicia and my pets. Keeneland's back running with their penultimate week of the fall meet here, and we're going to take a look at the Friday All-Turf Pick 3. But it's been a strange meet at Keeneland, Josh, and we'll talk a little bit about this because you look at the win pool, and there's just no way to spin it otherwise. The optics are really bad, with the CAW groups being able to just flood at the last flash after the race starts. You see 5-2 horses going off at 8-5. You see 3-1s going off at 9-5. It's just not a good look. And for as much as they do right, and Keeneland does a lot right, that's got to get fixed. On that happy note, Josh, how are you holding up?
I'm all right, man. So last week, obviously, we had our upgrade, and I ended up having to stay up till about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's a dentist's favorite time,
Why?
2:30. You walked into it. You give me low-hanging fruit, I have to take the low-hanging fruit. That's just who I am, Josh.
Anyways, yeah, it was a long day, and honestly, it kind of messed up my sleep for the rest of the week, and it's really weird because I I frequently, probably at least once a week during the week, I probably stay up till about 1. Just either because we're recording this. We record this late on Wednesday night. You guys usually hear this Thursday
Pacific time,
morning.
baby.
But usually because of this, right? I'm usually up probably about till about 1. Downloading it, making sure it gets uploaded and things like that. But I don't know, going till like 2:30, 3 o'clock. I mean, I was just wiped for days. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just completely wiped me out Thursday and Friday. And it was funny because Friday I was actually going to take. I was thinking about just taking like a mental health day and just kind of, just kind of resetting everything. But I pushed through. Had a couple things to do this weekend, and got some stuff coming up this next weekend. But honestly, I'm just trying to lay low until Breeders' Cup. The guys are all getting excited. We got, like I said, about 5 or 6 of us are gonna head over to Caleb's house for the weekend. So yeah, it should be a fun trip. I've never been to Denver, so I'm excited to kind of go and check some of it out. Although, Mark is already, if Mark is playing in the BCBC, he's like I'm gonna be locked in. He's like, if you guys want to go out Friday night, I'm staying here. He's like dead set on being focused for the contest if he's playing. So we'll see how it goes. But other than that, we did get some pretty big news with the official retirement of Torpedo Anna. That news came out, I think, earlier today. I saw the press release from Kenny McPeak. So, you know, uh, I'm glad that they ran her as long as they did. They ran her in basically every single race you could have possibly ran her in. And I keep on saying that we won't see. It might be tough to see a horse like that again, but as long as Kenny McPeak is training horses, I don't say I won't say never because if you remember, he had Swiss Skydiver, I believe, who he basically did the same exact thing with. I mean, yeah, that horse ran every single possible race that she could, and they ran her for those couple solid years. So I think if Kenny's got a good one, he's running it. So happy retirement for Torpedo Anna.
Well deserved for one of the better female horses that we've seen in the last 10 or 15 years. She can't be accused of ducking anybody. She danced a lot of dances. She raced in a bunch of races she did not have to run in. And look, with the reality of the horse racing business as it was, they did not have to bring her back as a 4-year-old, Josh. They did, and she ran in some big races. Her win in the Personal Ensign was one of the most exciting races of the Saratoga meet. Dorth Vader ran her eyeballs out trying to stay with Torpedo Anna, and Torpedo Anna got the nose down. But certainly a fantastic career for her. There's already a whole bunch of people on Twitter wondering who she's going to be bred to, what her babies are going to look like, and from a handicapping standpoint, I can't wait for that because whenever that offspring shows up at the racetrack, that horse is going to be wildly overbet.
Yeah, but yeah, why don't we jump into this turf pick 3 here at Keeneland on Friday, and it's going to start off with I think we have 2 maiden races to kind of start this off. First maiden is a 2-year-old filly, 5.5 turf sprint. And your morning line favorite in this race is the 2 Lion Lake for Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone. Andrew, you singled here. You like the 2 Lion Lake. Talk to me about it.
So, with a wager like this, when you've got 3 races that, to be honest, all look pretty wide open, as part of what I think is one of the better Keeneland cards of the meet to this point, there are a lot of betting opportunities on Friday, folks. Get involved. You don't want to miss this card. You have to single somewhere. I look at this race and I do see several horses that look promising. You look at the 4 Cardiff Reef. She took a big step forward last time out, showing a lot of early speed. There's a couple of others in here that also look pretty sharp. But the more I look at number 2 Lion Lake, the more I find to like. It's very hard for a 2-year-old to debut going a mile, let alone anywhere, let alone at Kentucky Downs, which is not an easy place to run and win. She comes out of what I think is a pretty live maiden race. If you scroll back up to the winner in your DRF past performances there for just a second, Josh, you see that the winner of that race, Infinite Sky, came back and ran a 96 time form figure back on October 3rd. That's a nice horse. So I'm certainly not going to downgrade Lion Lake off of that effort. And it's not like she ran horribly finishing fourth. She was just a bit one paced, and it seemed like she was trying to figure things out. And when you see 2-year-olds that run like that for trainers whose first time starters often need a race to get going, that's Brendan Walsh. By the way, folks, Brendan Walsh's horses are firing on all cylinders this fall at Keeneland. I see first call rider Tyler Gaffleone hopping aboard at second asking. I see the cutback from a route to a sprint. I see a lot to like here. I think Lion Lake is legitimate. And if you have stronger opinions elsewhere, more power to you. But my strongest opinion of the sequence, at least as it pertains to one particular horse, is with the 2 Lion Lake. I like this one a fair bit. If I had a bigger bankroll, I'd go a little bit deeper, but I like playing affordable tickets in this particular sequence. So, Josh, I'm going to single Lion Lake in this spot, and I'm going to spread elsewhere. You, however, went 3 deep. You did not use Lion Lake at all whatsoever. You did use a couple of horses that I find interesting, though. I mentioned Cardiff Reef. I saw that one on your ticket. I also saw a first-time starter in the form of Defina, and I got to tell you, it's interesting seeing Kevin Attard show up here when you had to think there were spots at Woodbine that would have also fit.
Yeah, so I don't have too much of an issue with Lion Lake. I mean, my biggest issue is probably the price. Um, I don't know. I mean, I get cutting this horse back, but like this is a humongous cutback, right? Like the mile going the mile at Kentucky Downs is probably more like a mile and 16th, mile and the eighth, right? And now we're coming back to 5.5. I'm a little curious about that, and you know, I have the formulator PPs up, right? Normally, I use time form for most things, but when it comes to these maiden races, and shout out to our friends at DRF who do have their Breeders' Cup packages available, save up to $38 on any of those packages. So check those out at drf.com. But yeah, you know, I, I just I just think that this horse is just kind of another horse in this field. You know, I think of the horses with starts, I do like the 4 Cardiff Reef. Um, I think if the 4 Cardiff Reef was trained by almost anybody else, this horse would probably be taking a little bit of money off very big improving effort on turf first time. Um, and you know, gets Ben Curtis aboard, who's very, very good on these turf horses. So, you know, I do like the jock switch there. You know, this is a horse that I mean, fired just a 34-second work last time out. So, you gotta figure this horse is primed here. So, of the horses which starts, I like the 4 Cardiff Reef, and I also like the 7 Miss Soothsayer. Um, Now, the 7 does have, you know, a turf sprint ish race at Kentucky Downs, going 6 in half furlongs. Um, you know, War of Will not necessarily hasn't gotten off to the greatest starts as a turf sire, only 7%. But I will say, you know, one of the things that I like to use on Formulator is this dam comparison chart, which lets you bring up all the dams on here and lets you kind of figure out, hey, how have the progeny here run? And when you look at Miss Soothsayer, out of the 6 turf starters, has 4 winners, right? So I think that there's definitely a lot of turf on the bottom end here that I think is sometimes is the part that maybe people don't always dive into. I think sharp handicappers, you know, they always look at the damn side a lot, but I think sometimes, you know, people are like, oh, it's a 7% turf sire, right? That kind. The dam side, very, very productive. Mark Cassidy knows how to get these turf sprinters going. So I really do like the 7 Soothsayer. And you already mentioned earlier the 3 Defina. Kevin Attard is great with these first time starters, first time turf starters. He's good with 2-year-olds. He's great at turf sprint. I mean, like everything, right? And then you get Mendelssohn, who's hitting at 11% right now with excuse me, with turf. Um, only 1 for 7 on the dam side with turf starters, so maybe that's a little bit of question. You're getting 8 to 1 on the morning line here. We'll see what we actually end up getting. But you get Frankie Dettori seeing fit to ride here. He's at 20% for the meet, so he's had a kind of a limited sample size here, but in the races he's ridden very, very well. So I like the 3 Defina. Like I said, nothing necessarily against the 2 Lion Lake, but at the 5 to 2 price, I think that there's others in here that I like more, and I'm just not going to use a 5 to 2 type horse as an additional A or a B type in this spot. So I'm just going to use the 3, 4, and 7 in this spot.
So, a quick note on the pedigree of number 3, Defina. You briefly brought up the past performances for the damn Bankers Buy. And yes, this was not a turf horse. She hasn't necessarily produced turf runners, but she has produced runners. She has 7 foals to race. 6 of them are multiple winners. She is a very productive broodmare, and several of those foals are sprinters. So it wouldn't be a surprise if the 3 was precocious and ready to fire first time out. And as mentioned, Kevin Attard's an astute guy. There had to be spots at Woodbine that would have fit in that condition book. Instead, he comes here with that horse. I'd probably pick Defina second or third, and I would certainly use her in exotics. But one thing I think we do agree on is if you're using the 2 in this spot and you're of a sound mind when it comes to ticket construction, you're singling that horse given her likely price.
Moving on to race 7 here, we got another 2-year-old turf sprint for fillies, 2 years old here. And, I had a hard time getting around the 7. Epic Lady Luck. This is the lone horse in this race that has a turf sprint race, and it was pretty good, right, at Kentucky Downs. Just I don't think the horse that won that race, Lit Ship. I don't think anyone was catching her that day. Obviously it was a very speed favoring track, but Lit Ship came back October 3rd to run at Keeneland, and while she ran 5th in that race, she improved by 8 time form points, right? So you can assume that, hey, that 90 time form figure that was given was a legitimate figure. So I think that that 85, you'll probably see some improvement off that, and I think that puts her right in the conversation here to win this race. So I really, really like the 7 Epic Lady Luck, especially with already having that that experience. The only other horse I'm using is a bomb, and that's the number 8, Victor Valley, in this spot. It's Israel Acevedo trains. I don't even know the jockey, last name of Calleja.
Before we go much further, there has to be a story with the name of the dam.
Blame it on Ed?
And I'm hoping it involves a mutual friend of ours.
I mean, we blame everything on Ed.
Of course. Hi, Ed. How you doing?
But funny enough, I was kind of digging on this horse a little bit. I pulled up the dam side, and once again, this is a dam that has had 3 turf starters, 2 wins, right? So productive dam on in the turf side, and tis the law, 17% first timers, 21% first time on turf. So this is a very productive pedigree. You look at the works. This is a horse that's been working out very, very well. You look at the connections. These 2, Israel Acevedo and the jockey, are 7 starts at Keeneland over the last year, 29% with a $16.84 ROI. Over the last year in total, 13% with a $7.06 ROI. What that tells me is these guys win together, and they do so usually at a price. You look at Israel Acevedo's stats, first time start. I mean, he's 1 for 23 first time starters, 1 for 14 first turf, right? But with 2-year-olds, he's a 16% trainer, right? So you got to think that maybe there's just a little bit of there's just a little bit of maybe a little bit of snake bitten in some of those first time start races, because he's been very very successful with these 2 year olds. So I just kind of think that this is a 30 to 1 that probably should be closer to like 10 or 12 to 1, not 30 to 1. So with that kind of overlay, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take a shot with the 8 Victor Valley. But those are the only two I'm going to use here. I'm going to use the 7 Epic Lady Luck. I'm going to use the 8 Victor Valley.
So we're taking a pretty similar approach to this particular race. I'm also using the 7 Epic Lady Luck. Didn't think she ran badly last time at Kentucky Downs, was second beaten 3.5 lengths. The third place finisher, Rockin' Robin, came back and ran a decent third on the dirt on the Wednesday card. So that wasn't a bad field that she ran second against. Your 7-5 morning line favorite, though, is the 9 Paris Twilight. And stop me if you've heard this before on this particular show. Brendan Walsh with a second-time starter, cutting back in distance after a decent debut going a mile at Kentucky Downs. Paris Twilight set the pace that day, faded to finish fifth, beaten 5.25 lengths. That winner came back, won the Jessamine, is likely bound for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Absolutely no holes to poke there. I think she's going to benefit from cutting back in distance for this one. You see the October 1st Bullet Drill at Turfway Park. I think she's sitting on a pretty big race. But in addition to the 2 logical horses, I'm going to do what you did, Josh, and use a bomb. I'm just going a different direction. I'm going to use the 10, Listen to Your Mother, who's 30 to 1 on the morning line. And I think it's coming down from that number, and we'll leave it there. Listen to Your Mother ran okay on the debut on August 16th at Ellis Park. She was third that day. She was wide. There were reasons to believe she had some talent. So they shipped her to Churchill. They ran her on the dirt, and she had a troubled trip, to put it mildly. I don't think she was winning, but she could have been fourth in that race pretty easily. She tries turf for the first time, and the immediate pedigree doesn't exactly suggest she's a grass horse. But if you go back a little bit on the dam side, you see a third dam that's an Irish bred that threw some turf runners. There is some turf pedigree there. You just have to work to find it. I see Luis Saez riding for a very small barn. I think this might be the lone horse in Ashley Hilliard's barn. That's interesting. Luis Saez knows how to get horses out of the gate. I think we'll see Listen to Your Mother be a bit more prominent early. The outside posts, she's going to need to clear the field, which is not going to be easy. But this is a horse that I think I see the same way you see Victor Valley. 30 to 1 on the morning line seems sort of wrong. And I wouldn't be surprised if Listen to Your Mother lit up the tote board going from dirt to turf. And I don't know if you can hear this with the microphone the way I have it right now, but my cat's screaming bloody murder in the other room. I have him put in as we record. So I think he's got some pretty strong opinions. Don't worry, folks, if you can hear that. He's fine. I just started him on a new medicine last week. He's acclimating to that. He's feeling great. It's just either he's eating or he wants to eat. And we'll leave that there. But I'm 7, 9, and 10 in this spot. I wouldn't be surprised if this winds up being super formful, but I needed to throw Listen to Your Mother in because it's a 2x4 horse for me. If that horse wins and I don't have her, given what I was able to find doing some pedigree research, I'm going to hit myself in the head with a 2x4, and it's going to be very painful.
All right. And then we have another turf sprint to close us out. For 3-year-olds and up, going 5.5 furlongs here. And your morning line favorite in this race, I believe, is the 3 Bergen at 3 to 1. Where did you land here, Andrew?
So this is a Chase Sessoms play, the Wolf of Oaklawn, if you're familiar with his show, The Notorious OTB. And if you're not familiar with his show, you should be. He and Barry Spears do fantastic stuff. They have frequently had members of the On the Wrong League Network on their show. He is very fond of closers in sprint races and believes that pretty much every sprint race is bound to fall apart because there's a lot of early speed signed on. This looks like a meltdown in the making. There are a lot of horses that want to go early. If you look at the Timeform pace projector, it's got a couple of horses in front and a couple of horses in behind. I see this as 2/3 of this field wants to go, which means the other third are going to be sitting pretty when the real running starts. So with that in mind, I want closers that can pick up the pieces. My tepid top selection is the 10 Attaché. He switched to the turf a couple of starts back at Ellis Park, and he's run pretty well twice. Last time out at Kentucky Downs, he got left with way too much to do. He was last of 12 early on over a turf course that tends to favor speed horses. He winds up rallying to finish third, beaten 3 lengths, beaten just ahead by Bergen, who also shows up in here. I think Attaché is the horse that you want on top out of that race simply because he was just way too far back in the early going. I'm using that one. I'll also use the horse directly to that one's inside the 9 Surf City. Surf City's 15-1 on the morning line. I'll take the under on that one. He has a win going 5.5 furlongs here at Keeneland back on April 17th. He hasn't won since, but he ran very well last time out at Kentucky Downs, and you can make the argument he was best that day, given some of the trouble that he had. You see Jose Ortiz hop aboard for Victoria Oliver. I think that one is super live. I am going to use your morning line favorite, the 3 Bergen. I'm a bit concerned that we haven't seen a win from that one since January of 2024. Think he might be developing into a bit of a hanger type, but there's no denying his running style fits the likely race shape. And I'm also going to throw in the European Invader, the 2 Jacajero. I really hope I'm saying that one correctly. You've got to go back a ways, but this is a horse that's run up against some very good ones in the past. They tried Graded Stakes Company at Maidan this past winter. He was 6th behind West Acre in a Group 2 going 5 furlongs on the turf. I think he's a little bit better going a hair longer. He gets 5.5 in this spot, and I think he's going to come running late. Whether or not he's good enough, I don't know, but the stranger danger factor is there, and he's going to get the race shape that I think he wants. So I am 2, 3, 9, and 10 in this particular spot. I think this race completely falls apart, and if it does, and we're live to the right closers, I think this is going to pay because your guess is as good as mine with regard to which horse winds up going off favored in this spot. There are some very fast horses that are going to take some money, but Josh, I think those horses need the lead, and only one horse is going to be able to get it.
Yeah, I will say I did miss that note on the 9. So I have the horse penciled in now after you talked about it. Looking at that race, I do like this horse a lot more seeing that Keeneland race, to start the season for this horse.
I've persuaded someone. Yes.
So I do have that horse probably as an include in here. I went 3 deep in this spot. I believe you talked about the 2 Jacajaro here. First time in the U.S. For who's the trainer? Our
trainer of note is Robert Cowell.
Robert Cowell, thank you. And my general thinking on these European horses are these time form figures generally tend to trend upwards when they come into the U.S. I don't think it has anything to do with them just running better in the U.S. I think there's just there's something in the conversion. I think that usually they run a little bit faster compared to U.S. time form figures. So you adjust those figures up a couple of points, and all of a sudden you have a different. The horses look a little bit better. Now, granted, some of the faster races are on flats or straights rather. So you do have to question like is going a turn. Is that going to hinder the horse? Like you look at that race 2 back at Ascot, right? That 5 furlong race is a straight, and that 110 time form figure on the straight. You see a little bit of regression, I think, on some of those races that have a turn, but yeah, I just think that that this is a horse that's going to match up very, very well figure wise with the rest of the horses in this spot. So I do like the 2 in this spot. Of the shorter prices, I like the 6 Frosty View. Now, granted, this is a horse that's kind of been right up on the pace the last couple of starts. That last race was obviously going a mile, and you see some really, really insane pace figures for the first couple of fractions, right? You see a 142, 134. this horse is kind of weird because I think this is a horse got sprinter speed, right? And but when you kind of look at some of the early pace, or you kind of look at the late pace figures that this horse has had, this is a horse that has seemed to, even with these really really fast early fractions, has been able to keep on. So I do think that if this horse does end up on the front and it starts getting kind of crazy, I think this is probably the one that kind of holds out and is able to maybe keep on in this race. So I'm going to use the 6 Frosty View. Timeform, interestingly, doesn't have this horse right on the lead. Timeform has this horse slightly off, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with the 6. But the other tracker I have is the 8 Smoky Smoky. Now this is a horse that has been coming from off the pace, and I think has been doing his best running probably at 6 furlongs. So is cutting back here a little bit, is coming off of basically a year layoff. But it's Mike Maker doing it. Tyler Gaffleone gets aboard here. So I don't have as many kind of reservations with that. And if you look at the works for this horse, this looks like a horse that's been working pretty well here over the last couple of weeks. So I think he is going to be primed, and I do think that this is a horse that's going to be coming in here with being able to come in from off the pace. And like I said, Tyler gets aboard here, so that's always kind of a good sign. So I'll be using the 2, the 6, and the 8 in this spot, and then I'll probably end up tossing the 9 in as well on at least a couple of tickets.
If one of my horses scratches out of this leg, I may very well throw the 8 in. My concern with the 8 is that big, huge number that's on the screen with Smoky Smoky. 364 days since his last race. He's been off a year. If he's ready, he's got a shot. But my goodness, that is not a small layoff, even for connections that know how to bring horses back. Mike Maker, 17%, but still, that's a long time, man.
Yeah, let's see. We'll say 180 to 365. 18%.
It's not bad. It's just that is a really long break. And it's one of those things where when I look at a horse like that, I see that and it's scary. If he's ready, he's got a shot. I think the tote board is going to tell a story there. You'll be able to see that horse potentially what he's going to bring to the table at the first flash of the tote board prior to that race. Unfortunately, for the standpoint of an all-turf pick 3, you've got to have your ticket in long before that.
It's much worse when you sort for turf sprints, 11%.
Yeah, so you see 11%. You do see a positive ROI though.
Yeah.
So no, that would be a horse that I would throw in the event of some scratches, because I agree with you on the running style. It's just, you look at that sort of layoff, you look at the race he ran in March of 2024 off of a layoff of 3 months. You look at the first out effort at Saratoga. Those races weren't awful per se, but they weren't nearly as good as the races he's had when he's gotten going. Just prefer others in this spot. I see where you're going, and from a back class standpoint, though, he certainly fits.
All right, Andrew. So I got your ticket up here. You want to go ahead and talk us through it?
Sure. So I am singling in the first leg of the all-turf pick 3, which is race number 4. Really think the Brendan Walsh horse cutting back in distance is going to be pretty tough in there. So singling that one and spreading elsewhere. I am 3 deep in the second leg using the 2 logicals and a bomb, and I am hoping for a meltdown in the payoff leg. Remember, it is a $3 minimum bet. So at the $3 value, you're looking at a $36 investment. I like this ticket quite a bit. I think you're going to wind up getting some horses home that, while they get some play in the win pool, wind up paying a bit bigger than that in wagers like this, wagers like the late pick 4. And I think you're going to get some value if you wind up playing this sequence. It's a good sequence on a very good card.
Yep. And so Andrew's ticket here is 2 with 7, 9, 10 with 2, 3, 9, 10, and that's a $36 play. I'm kind of, I have a $54 play here. I'm not going to say really spread, but I don't have a single in here, so it gets a little bit more expensive. I'm 3, 4, 7 with 7, 8 with 2, 6, 8, and that's a $54 ticket. And like I said, I'll probably sprinkle in the 9 in some way, shape, or form in that last leg somehow. Maybe I'll single the is it the 7 in that middle leg, and maybe play a ticket or two with the 9 in the last. So, yeah, Andrew, what do you got going on this week?
So this week's going to be a lot of dog sitting. The in-laws are on vacation in Vancouver starting on Friday, so need to make sure somebody's there to watch the dogs, make sure they wind up getting taken care of, and that winds up being myself and my lovely wife. So we will be chilling out with the dogs for most of the weekend. Also heading to a football game on Saturday. One of Alicia's work friends has a kid that's on the team, so going to support them and hopefully, fingers, toes, and eyes all crossed, making our maiden voyage to Original Joe's in Walnut Creek, California. Fantastic Italian food, and it's one of the toughest tables to get in the Bay Area right now. They are a well-known restaurant from San Francisco that came inland. They opened. They had to close because of a kitchen fire. They just reopened again a couple of weeks ago. It is an absolutely wonderful place from all the reviews. And if I wind up getting a chance to sit down and partake in some of the local fare there will be a lot of chicken parm in my future. That is always, I say always, a good thing.
And that's going to do it for us here on Drank and Champagne. Check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drink. Andrew is at Andrew Champagne. We'll be live tonight, Thursday night, talking about probably about Keeneland Late Pick 5 on Saturday. Get you ready for another fun weekend of racing at Keeneland. And yeah, check out our friends at DRF. Check out our friends at AM Wager. Have a good weekend, guys. Let's make some money.